Cirrus. Do we still have the Starkweather group with us?
Boom.
All right, Joe, can you talk us through Cirrus change? I've researched the heck of it, but rather than me to explain to the group what Cirrus change is, I think it's better if it comes from you.
So, and I'm going to lean into Mel on this because she really is the driving force behind Cirrus. Um, but I'll give the sort of top line pitch. And the whole premise of Cirrus is that we believe every team can be ready for change. And what we've experienced over our 16, almost 17 years of technology implementations is that most teams aren't ready to adopt the technology. People aren't in alignment. They're worried about accomplishing their jobs. They were never consulted on the technology to be adopted in the first place. And there's just a lot of internal issues that only leaders can solve. In the change management space, it's typically consultants that will come in and try to lead a change. They're hired as experts, but consultants don't have positional authority nor relationships to actually influence within the organization. So what Mel developed is a education protocol, an analysis tool, and then tools to be used to manage the change, to help teach change competencies within the organization and let them manage and master their own change and in a sense, take control of their future. So we are spinning Cirrus out of our practice for use by other technology companies and by other consulting firms. So with that, I will let Mel add on anything that she thinks was salient that I might have missed.
No, you did a really good job. I think the only other background I would add is some information from the Association for Talent Development that did a survey, a meta survey of organizations, and found that most organizations are concomitantly going through, or concurrently, I guess, going through about 6 to 10 changes every year. And so there's a lot of change that organizations are facing. And most of the feedback that that ATD received was that it wasn't going well.
I ask a clarifying question here. The information you provided in advance made it sound like the primary audience of this was the company that was going through the change.
Correct.
And then what I just heard from you, Joe, is that it's the consultants that are leading that change, or the other software companies that would be your customers that would or your channel for this product.
We are trying to develop consulting firms and technology companies as channels for selling our product so that the changes they're involved with are more successful. Our initial model has been us selling directly to our customers, but if we're going to scale, for example, we're talking to a consulting firm tomorrow that has 100 consultants under their roof. And then on Wednesday, we're talking to a consulting firm that has 6,000 consultants under their roof. And so our goal is for them to bring in Cirrus as their change management protocol into their projects. Does that help?
It does. And is it safe to say, based on the research that I did, that change management software, if it is a category, is a very confused category, and more aptly, perhaps, you're creating a category of software with this product?
Yeah, that's what we believe. And Mel, you're on.
There are a few other things, and I mean like a few things like what we have, but no one has a platform like we have. They've got tools, and it's not kind of there's not the consistency and alignment with the education. So in some ways we are unique, but in other ways we've got competition. PwC has tools, there's ProSci has tools. So there are a lot of other tools that organizations might want to go to, but it would be a different experience, if that helps.
Yeah. So is your primary target as far as building awareness and is your primary go-to-market via these consultants, or is your primary go-to-market direct to companies that are experiencing change?
So up until this point, our primary go-to-market has been to associations that are looking to adopt new enterprise technology that
Right.
want implementation services, and they're coming to us, and we're also selling Cirrus as part of our services, just like we sell technical services, education, data migration, and that sort of thing. Our goal, and we haven't proven this idea out yet, we don't have one example yet, but hope to have one soon, is that a consulting firm will say, we want to bring a Cirrus into a project. Well, we've already had them say we want to bring them in. We have not transacted yet. And in my mind, nothing says I love you like a cleared payment. So, once we get there, then we can say, yes, this idea has legs.
Okay. So it sounds like your objective first and foremost is to build a following among consultants,
Yes, if we can.
educate consultants.
Mhm. Yeah, and the other target audience that I forgot to put in that note to you last night, Steve, is we're trying to talk to people who are responsible for customer success on the platform, on the technology platform side.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I've got a group that I met last week. I did not meet their director of customer success, but two people from a technology company that implements a version of Microsoft Dynamics with an association layer over the top. Said you absolutely have to meet our director of customer success. She's always talking about change management. Well, for her, we can give her a protocol, a platform, a risk assessment, standardized education, and then an approach that she can propagate across her team of project managers to successfully help their clients implement their technology. The goal there is, if you're a technology company, what we know about technology companies is that the better the implementation is, the more likely the customer is to stay on your platform.
Right.
So if you can do that, then hopefully you won't lose them in that sort of 3 to 5 year churn cycle that we've witnessed in our industry.
And if you had data to back that up and say we can from a proven standpoint reduce churn by X percentage, you can close sales all day long with those software companies because they can do that math really easily to determine exactly what the value is in reducing churn.
I don't know that we can say that yet, but I like the idea of being able to say it.
I don't think you're that far away from being able to say it. You just need like 5 sales to be
Yeah.
5 of these to be
Yeah.
able to do it, right?
And in the meantime, there's all that data from the Association for Talent Development. So I think you can always use the third-party data there too.
Yeah, in our video that I posted that link to, guys, in that document, I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch it, but it was the video Mel put together where she compared ATD data and Gartner data. I mean, there's a clear correlation that she identified, and I'm happy to go to market with that correlation.
Yeah.
I mean, if that makes sense. I mean, Mel, am I representing that appropriately? Yeah.
So I'm just going to stop sharing on here. Your objective then is to reach customer success executives at SaaS platforms, regardless of the industry.
Yeah.
And to reach consultants in the change management space, right?
Yeah. Consultants in the change management place, or who are responsible for technology selection and implementation.
Within the consulting firm or at the end?
I'm not sure how to answer that question.
So you said, or those that are responsible for directing consultants in the change management space or business consultants who are recommending software implementations.
Correct. To add on to that, like for example, the folks we're talking to tomorrow, they have 100 in-house consultants. They are responsible for providing technology acquisition, analysis, and services like recommending platforms,
Yep.
project management, and fractional CIO roles, where a slice of their person spends a percentage of their time helping be the CIO of an association. On Friday, we're talking to people who are on Wednesday, we're talking to people in a consulting firm who are involved with what they call digital transformation. And that is how to move them from, wherever they are to wherever they want to be in terms of new platform. Part of their process is change management, but they don't have a unified approach on how they do it. And that's what we see in almost all these consulting firms is they're like, oh, we know we should do it. We think it's a great idea. So on our team does it this way and somebody else does it that way. There's no cohesive approach, which then means, of course, there's no scalability and there's no data to reflect upon to say, oh, wow, look what we did across our client base.
Got it. Bear with me one moment while I bring up a visual.
Please. And thank you for asking and rephrasing, because customer success executives at SaaS platforms is absolutely right. That's a vertical we should be going after. The association of customer success people.
That sounds like really fertile ground to go and do that chaperone email idea.
Yes.
There's an association for everything.
Yes, there is. Well, we were at AMS Fest last week, Charlene, which was basically a 2-day gathering with some add-ons where everyone just comes and kicks the tires on association technology. And so those are the people we want to talk to, is anyone who's about ready to go spend, whatever their budget is. What they spend on their enterprise technology is a lot of money for them. And we've been able to make the argument that, the question of, would you spend 10% of your budget to prevent 90% of your risk, which is people? And when we ask that question, the grown-ups who've been to the School of Hard Knocks are like, hell yeah. And that's when we usually get our demo or our next conversation.
Okay. Ah, come on. I'm pulling up the wrong PowerPoint here repeatedly.
Just to fill airtime for you then, Steve, I know that our teeny tiny agency, there's a couple of vendors that we're buying SaaS materials from that are in the 60,000 a year range, right? Because we need these tools to do what we need to do here. And to your point, am I happy with a current vendor? No, but the risk of making that switch is incredibly painful. So yeah, to your point, spend 10% to mitigate 90% of that risk. I think that's that's next year's advertising campaign right there.
Thank you.
So let's talk about how we could go out and get those individuals. I don't know if I presented this graphic to this group before. But if this was in the four methods presentation, I think it was. So at the end of the day, you could go the traditional route and try and build awareness among those two audiences we talked about, or those three audiences, if you split your change management consultants from your technology consultants, right? And try and build awareness, drive some engagement through some content, some materials, some offers, etc. Build a database of people and qualify them, or just plain put some low-hanging lead forms out there, qualify them, and then actually engage in a sales process here. The alternative is to flip the funnel and go the other way. We know who these people are. It's not that hard to build a database of every single director of customer success at every single SaaS platform. That's actually a doable thing, and you can buy a Zoom info license tomorrow and have access to that list. The same thing with a lot of these change management consultants. I'm sure there are associations, et cetera, that you can go through to get access to those people. And then engage from both a marketing and a sales perspective to reach them at the same time. So this would mean having some sort of an outbound salesperson at your disposal to go and initiate these conversations. It sounds like today that's the two of you, or do you,
Yep.
and
Just us.
so that gets hard to scale. And in my experience, if you try to go an account-based model when you don't have dedicated sales team to engage at the same time as the marketing is going to a given set of accounts, or to respond quickly when somebody bites and they're in market and you detect it, it generally doesn't produce the most solid ROI. So I would say the only way that the account-based model is going to work is if you were to bring in somebody else to do that sales. Is that on the roadmap right now, or is that a plan, or in budget, or not feasible?
Well, that's a good question. We want to do that. The first thing we wanted to do is prove out that we could make the sale and understand the messaging, for a given market. So it's kind of like the baby step of, again, you've got something when somebody's willing to pay you money for it. So that was the route, and that's why we are, in a sense, trying to stay focused. We're looking at sort of two different, in a sense, market geographies. One market geography is anyone who implements or recommends an association management system. And that's within the association market. And it can be fairly tight market. And it's even tighter than that. It's within the AMS Fest community of people who attend that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
The other geography we're using, if you will, is relationships in and around Madison with people who are consultants who are involved with digital transformation and or implement other kinds of software. So if they're in Dane County and we know somebody who knows them, we're using our networks to get in front of them and have conversations. So that way, we can prove the idea and see if it's got legs, to answer the question of, can we sell Cirrus as a standalone product without having to invest in a salesperson right away? If we can answer the question, yes, people want to buy and use Cirrus outside of just our clients that come to us for implementation services, then we can start to forecast, okay, now we need a salesperson, this is what they're going to cost, et cetera, et cetera.
So you're sort of at proof of concept, proof of market. I mean, we know your product works. You're proof of channel. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it.
I do like the idea of not this week, because you're going to go first sell both of those appointments that you've got. You're going to sell those association friends of yours. But I do like the idea of building out your list using Zoom Info. And I'm going to say EO has some kind of a deal with Zoom Info and you can get a discount. So when you are ready to do that, anybody who doesn't currently have a relationship, I'm pretty sure that's still something that's live through Zoom Info. That's how I first got involved, was an EO deal. I think it's sort of like getting to your first, I don't know if it's 5, 10, a dozen, you're going to have to proof of channel to make sure that this is going to work. And I think the thing I would focus on then in this process is based on some of the experiences that we've had, test and interview and validate everything along the way. So when you're first doing this one, is there think of all the pilots we've ever participated in. Is there a pilot here that if this proves out and that proves out, then they're going to become your customer at that price point? So that it's a way, like you were saying a minute ago, that you want to mitigate 90% of risk. You had me at hello on that one, Joe, right? So how can you reduce the risk to these first couple of people to get them in the fold? And it feels to me like, they're a pilot. You're going to give them promotion. You're going to give them something in return. They get a discount. They could, in fact, I've seen this work in the education market. You become a pilot customer for $1. I don't care. You're a paid pilot. Nobody ever has to know that it was $1. You're in their billing system. Mm-hmm. That's what the dollar accomplishes. It's an amazing amount of work to get to that first dollar in the education space. But once you do that, if this, then you get the sale of blah, blah. And so since you're still trying to prove out, one way to do that to mitigate the risk on their side would be to give them a bit of a deal, which I know sucks because you want as much money as you can get today. You might be able to get to your first 5, first 10 that much faster if you give them a deal. The other thing I like about having a pilot license, a pilot agreement, a pilot something, there's a promotion element to it. And from the world of horror stories, I can share that a client of ours did a very large pilot in many districts in the same state. It's a southern state. It has a lot of sun, but I'm not going to name the state. They spent $6 million on the pilot. And when it came time to do promotions after the end of a highly successful pilot, the state said, what do you mean you want to talk about the fact that we just experimented on the children of this state? We didn't give you permission to do that. Killed the product dead. So think on again, risk mitigation for yourself, because that surprised you, that particular story. How can you get involved with them? How can you get them signed up? What's going to make it sweeter for them? It's a little harder than the baseball cap for Jamie. You're going to have to find something for them to make it be attractive to them. I think you've got the data points from ATD to back you up. I think you can make that happen. But they get 4 years for the price of 3. I have no idea what you're going to give them.
Is this if I'm a consultant and I'm introducing Cirrus to my customer, I guess 2 questions with it. One, my customer is paying you directly. My customer is paying me as a consultant. How does that transaction look?
So depending on the consultant, it could go either way. Some consultants don't want any margin on a technology they recommend because they are paid to be independent. So
yeah.
We're talking, one of the guys who's bringing us into a Cirrus deal that hopefully we'll get some ink on maybe even tonight. He charges them $30K just to do a discovery. He doesn't want anyone thinking that a vendor is going to influence his thinking. However, other ones will take margin and either resell it. They'll put us on their paper. They've said they'll put us on their paper, and then they'll get 12, 15%, whatever we haggle with for that. For them, they get the upside because they can sell coaching and additional consulting hours. So it gives them one more thing to put on their paper that they confront. Again, we haven't proven it yet. I haven't seen the money actually go from the guy in the UK who says he'll do it to our account, but that so far, that's the direction the conversations have gone. Does that help?
And so that was my next question, was on the coaching. If this goes through a consultant, do they become the exclusive coach? And if it goes direct or through another channel, there are multiple coaches potentially available through the platform. How does that part I was a little confused when I was reading through things.
Yeah, good question. Up to this point, we're selling the coaching direct, but Mel, you want to talk about the vision?
Yeah, we've got coaches on staff. Excuse me. But there are other groups who are talking to us about who, just as Joe said, they want to sell their own coaching hours. They want to have control of the product and the project. But they just want to use this as a tool that can help them, especially the initial evaluation that we do. It provides a lot of data for moving forward. So it kind of depends on how they want to do it. To date, all the clients have gone directly, like we've been the coaches.
It would be interesting to get some experience shares from Will Scott, because his solution with not Culture Czars, oh my goodness, I'm blanking on his new company, is pretty similar in that he's rounding up a bunch of HR coaches and lining those folks up under his umbrella, under his system. So they still have their independent brand, but then they are providers of this as well. And so when I think of change management consultants, could they be, Cirrus certified?
Yeah. Yeah. And we
And
actually were certified by an independent educational body, so it qualifies for continuing education credits.
so that becomes a selling point for them, that they are no longer just floating in the wind. They're now selling a proven system,
Yeah.
and they fall under that category. And Will has been very successful at growing that.
Okay.
And rather than share his experience there, I would say it'd be worthwhile reaching out to him on that front for the change management consultants. That doesn't necessarily apply to the SaaS consultants that are in their recommending solutions, and it certainly doesn't apply to the CX leaders that would be purchasing this on behalf of their platform to offer to their customers.
Mhm. Well, and it's interesting because the group we're talking to tomorrow, they are the kind that would want their employees to be considered Cirrus Change certified, because they would want to bring this into their into their client base.
Right.
So that would be an argument for them to say, oh yeah, we want everybody to go through the training. So wouldn't that be nice?
Okay.
What's the do you make money on the certification process? You manage it, you run it, they pay a fee, they pass a test, you make $10,000?
Yep.
Nicely done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mel and the team, they developed this whole curriculum of videos, case studies, quizzes, tool sets,
Yep,
videos. It's all in a learning management system. And we charge, like, this group that we're having go through it soon. Hopefully they sign like tonight. 6 people are going to pay like $8,500 to go through it.
nicely
So,
done.
and it's all remote.
And of course, there's a renewal each year.
Yep. Yep. I mean,
But
the ideal situation would be that consulting firms sign up for the analysis tool and the education and the management tool sets on an annual license basis, and then they would resell it to their clients. And so the new version of the software that Mel and team are working on has the ability for kind of a hierarchical management structure where our clients could then manage their clients all within under their instance.
Well, actually, kind of, sort of. What we can do is watch and guard within guardrails, but we've been really clear about we can't interfere. We've created it so that they're running it, but if at any time they need to back out, we can remove them and replace them. But just for all the confidentiality agreements, we've actually developed it really rigorously that no one with our email from our company can interfere in any of the apps that they're running for their own teams.
now, from a brand management standpoint, they are expected to follow your processes, your best practices, your learning, your materials. They're not allowed to go and take them and bastardize them and make them different from what is the gospel of Cirrus change, right?
I'm not entirely sure how to answer that. It's an enclosed system. It's a kind of a captive platform. So I'm not sure how they would, but
Okay. Well,
um,
they could say ignore that part over here.
oh yeah, I suppose they could.
Yeah,
Of course, this
and
is
here's how to do it better.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so what I find interesting is that the certification leads down a purchase path of the software, and the software leads down a purchase path of the certification. Is that correct?
Yes, they can start. So there's 2 ways that people start. One way is the change readiness assessment, which is this algorithm that Mel developed to help identify the risk factors, and she's got 26 different questions that help us help them understand where all their risks are and then how to manage it. So some will start there and then do the education for their change team right away. Others, if they haven't made a decision on the change yet, will flip the script and start with the education first, and then run their entire community through the change readiness assessment.
Okay.
So the logic follows some of what we learned from the Association for Talent Development, and that's that there's a strong correlation, almost an exact number of project failures to the number of teams that don't have in-house change management competencies. And I think the number is like 68% of each. 68% of change projects fail, and about 68% of organizations don't have in-house change competencies. And what they found is that the most successful, highest performing teams not only had in-house change competencies, but had it throughout the organization. And so that's why our goal, we encourage everyone at every level to go through this, or at least representatives from all levels can get the education so that the change runs more smooth. smooth.
Got it. Okay. So at this juncture, when it comes to marketing, you're in a position where A, you don't necessarily have your go-to-market messaging really clearly defined and perfect yet. You're still refining that as you go through this process. B, I'm assuming you don't have a huge budget for this because the machinery is not up and running. You don't have proven ROI, et cetera. So it's too high a risk to really throw significant money at it. And you're looking for the scrappy solutions to get things kicked off. Is that accurate, or you?
Yes, you are correct.
So at this juncture, I've worked with and consulted more than really taken on clients that were more startups, it's a lot of cold outreach. And this is where they have had to skirt some of the best practices when it comes to email marketing. And there's this fine line between what you have as cold email versus spam versus opt-in, right? And there's this thing in the middle that, like, yeah, I'm gonna email you, didn't opt in, but I'm gonna email you. There's an unsubscribe link in the bottom, which keeps me legal. But it's subtle and it's not meant to be noticed. And the scrappy, I don't have a ton of budget, usually starts with a Zoom info account or acquiring a list by hook or crook and going after it with a cold email program. The more you can personalize, the better response you're going to get off of that. And that's a kind of a sales/marketing angle of things. I want to caution you that whatever email domain you use for that could end up getting trashed depending on how you go about doing it. So be very careful about how you execute that cold email domain. And if it's or a cold email program, if it's a new domain, don't go heavy on it at first because you need to warm it up first. And you can Google warming up an email domain to get more info on that. The same thing can be done on LinkedIn with connection requests or in-mail messaging, etc. As far as getting those conversations started, you're at an advantage in that you're sort of in a new category and at least in a new space. There's some novelty, there's some newness to this. So you're going to be welcomed into more inboxes than you would be if you were just another person selling something else that they could buy anywhere else. And if you approach folks from a standpoint of, hey, new product, want your feedback on it, can I get in front of you? Which is something you can do because it is a new thing, right? You're going to get a lot better response than, are you interested in a 15-minute pitch?
Yeah, I think Steve, you're onto something there, because again, I think it's going to be a lot of relationship, Joe, for you guys, you and Mel, to get the first couple of folks lined up who are going to be willing to try this because it's new. As you go, and because they're a personal relationship and they're going to get extra special handholding, that's a place to find out, and so tell me, what conferences and events do you attend? What newsletters do you read? What magazines do you read? What social media accounts are you following? Are you still on social media would be, I guess, another question. But those are all places to take advantage of those and go deep with that smaller group, figure it out, and then go. A good friend of mine always said it's really hard to get past your first 100 customer unless you figured out after you've sold everybody that has the same last name as you, then you still have to go get the next 98 customers. Right. So you're going to
Yeah.
have to figure out the relationship. It's the friends and family. You're going to have to work it hard. I love actually the idea of starting out in Wisconsin, because I suspect, might not be correct here, but the Wisconsin Association for or of something, you get that group figured out, then you've got the other 49 states, and it could be that there are the national associations that are headquartered here that you can go look at as well. So you open up
Yeah.
that door, then their job, that part of this pilot part, right, is then figuring out how to get those introductions to the other 49 states.
Yeah. Yeah. And what we have seen, you know, in the Wisconsin market is so much generosity with people, and, you know, people we've known for a long time have been cheering us on and opening doors. And it's just, you know, between the association space where people know us for implementing association technology, and we have that reputation, so that, you know, I don't have to tell people that we're credible in implementing technology. They already know that. What I do tell them is, you know, and this was the AMS conversation, is we've cracked the nut on this, and we think it can help other consultants like us.
You know, the other thing I like about that, Joe, you know what you just said? You've got a video in the making, because they're all right here in your backyard. You don't have to schlep to that state where there's lots of sunshine in January, although that wouldn't be horrible, to get a video. You're schlepping to East Washington Avenue, right? I mean, come on. Mel, you've got a lot of experience on the video front. You've done great things with that. Figuring out how to get them to say all the things that you just said. Again, that's part of the pilot. If this works and you like it, we're going to video and we're going to do 3 segments that look like this. I don't know what the deal is. Again, you're going to have to work on
Love
that,
it.
but you've got them in your backyard. I think that's an incredibly, when you first said that, I'm like, you know, that's a small market. I don't know about that. The more I think on it, the more I think you've got yourself a winning strategy, and I'm learning from you in this process, Joe and Mel. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you, Beth.
Thank you. Yeah. The association market, it's pretty big, and then there are some groups like ASAE, Association Forum in Chicago. There are a lot of different places, and I think the biggest challenge, and this is what Steve, you know, had mentioned, is it's a really new way of thinking about something that for small to medium businesses is really intimidating, because traditionally it's been extremely expensive with inconsistent results. And so it's a really different way of approaching it. So it's and the groups that have done it, we've got some great testimonials from them. But yeah, it'd be interesting to get an interview. I like that.
Video.
Yep. Yeah, no, this is very helpful. And this, like when we saw Steve's presentation from a few weeks ago, when he was talking about having to educate to, in a sense, develop a category, it just absolutely resonated, because there are so many people out there that understand kind of that you need to do change management. But when you tell them that you can collect data to identify risk profiles and then give them a platform by which they can educate and manage this, then they're just like, huh? And, you know, what happened last week was based on work we did 6 months ago. And now, to your point, Charlene, we've got the list of everybody who attended last week. So they're all going into our drip campaign that Mel and the team, what do we got? Like 10 weeks worth of infographics to send out?
Awesome.
Nice.
Nice.
Couple other random errata that I just want to share some knowledge and experience with. Being in the software space, there are a couple of things that'll pop up, G2, Capterra, et cetera, that will pop up at some point. When you are defining a new category, those places are awful. So,
can you repeat that again? G2?
Yeah, G2 and Capterra.
Oh, yeah.
Are the two big ones, and then there's a couple of others that are trying to muscle their way in. You need to get profiles on those platforms, the free profiles, and then encourage anybody who does end up using your software to go and post reviews out there from a social proof standpoint. But unless you're in an existing category and have some competitive, unless you check a whole bunch of boxes you guys don't check, be careful giving them money because they're not gonna, the ROI probably isn't there. I can't say for 100% certainty, but just pattern matching against other clients that have spent gobs of money on G2 and Capterra not to make a cent. You kind of look like them. So, but the free stuff is definitely worth getting because it's free and it's social proof. And when somebody goes to Google Cirrus Change, more than just your website comes up, and then you've got reviews out there on it, and it'll stand to benefit you. I don't know, Clark, you probably have some experience with G2 and Capterra as well. No, none of your clients.
No, that's not anything we pay attention to.
Okay.
But one we do pay attention to is something called Product Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at the categories on it now. There's probably a category in here that you could launch on. I mean, this thing keeps going on and on, so there's got to be something.
That channel's fascinating because it's actually kills sort of two birds with one stone in the sense that I'd imagine that that's frequented by a lot of your software advice folks. I'm not a Product Hunt expert at this point. Definitely something worth digging into. But your software consultants who are recommending various pieces of software probably aggregate and hang there.
Right.
There are ways to do that right, because it's kind of a matter of rallying some support and some interest in advance of some sort of an announcement or launch. And I don't know, Clark, if you know better about how that works.
I don't. It's been something we've been considering launching on.
I think we know a guy, a colleague of ours in Sweden who launched on that, and they got a bunch of earned media out of it. Melinda, didn't Shane?
That Shane?
Yeah, launch on that.
Yeah, let's reach out to him.
Do your homework and read up and learn how to do it right before you do it. Would be my suggestion there, only because I know that there's a right way and a wrong way of doing it, and that's about all I know.
And then when you learn it, come back and share it.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
That would be
Brian?
awesome.
Happy to.
I'm going to ask if we can wrap about 10 minutes early. We have a transportation issue in the Robinson house that I need to jump in and address, unfortunately.
Can I ask about Zoom Info? Having not heard of it, how there seems to be some crossover between that and like HubSpot. What's the secret sauce on Zoom Info?
Zoom Info is a contact database that you can purchase lists of contacts from based on very complex queries you can plug into it.
So it's more like BizLeads then.
Yeah, it's like your BizLeads database, only probably higher quality from a verifiable standpoint. They bought a company called ZoomInfo was known for having kind of mediocre data, and they bought a company that had the best data in the industry. And they've been merging the two data sets. So you can basically say to what level of quality you want the contacts to be at and drag the slider across. And then if it's higher quality, they're getting it mostly from the company they bought. I met a guy from ZoomInfo once who explained how the technology works. It's really kind of creepy. They scan email signatures at the bottom of emails.
You give them permission to do that, because I've done that.
Yep.
I got a deal on my Zoom Info subscription because I play well with others.
Yeah. And so if you're willing to let them scrape the data at the bottom of the email signatures, which include the phone numbers and the email addresses and names of all the people that you're receiving email from, then you get a discount on Zoom Info, and then they go and sell that data to the other people.
Boy, I would get lit.
Wow.
But nobody knows that that's
Nobody
happening,
knows.
Clark. Nobody knows. The other thing that I would say is how we use it is sort of like this. I have two primary uses of Zoom Info. I don't buy group giant lists. I don't think of it in that way. What we do is oftentimes you get somebody who reaches out to say, "Hey, Charlie, I hear you're the greatest thing since sliced bread." Happens to be true. And I want to follow up with them and send them an email of my, you guys are talking about infographics. We want to invite them to a webinar series, an expert series that we're doing, or get their survey opinions for a trends report that we're doing, or something, and I don't have their email address. So I can go to Zoom Info and dollars to donuts, because again, it's all about scraping of email. It's probably going to have an email address for them. It could be that it's a Gmail. Sometimes we find Gmail. Oftentimes on LinkedIn, you find Gmails and you reach out to them personally and you say, I'm so sorry, I seem to have somehow or other lost your business address. Can you please help me? And they're like, oh, well, of course, because they don't want it in their personal email. So we use it a lot to fill in the missing blank of what's your email, because so often in LinkedIn profiles, people don't put that in anymore. The other thing that we do is if we're talking to a prospect and I've got the name of, I'm going to make up the director of marketing, I'm going to go and figure out who's the CEO, how many people report to that director of marketing, who's the VP of sales, if this all makes sense. And I'm going to grab maybe 5 total people from that company so that I'm not talking to the one person, I'm talking to the decision-making team. And so we selectively go in there and do more deep dives into individuals and companies than we do for industry sectors.
So I'm going to go back to they don't know and just share my own experience, which is, well, one, we've never sold anything, but it is very easy to create burner email addresses, and a very large segment of our group will do something like that conference at whatever Gmail and tag it so that they know if what organization was sold their email address.
That's so interesting. I don't know that it's possible to reverse engineer that. Every communication I've sent to you since I've known you, Clark, has had some kind of a squiggy diggle on the back of it. That was my high-tech term there. So that's there. Sorry, you got scraped because of it. I will tell you that because we have things like, I have a generic email that's hello@cbloom, which is all over my website and stuff. I've got other emails that we use internally. They think that I have about 24 employees because we have active use of all those sub email domains that are really just pointers to go to other people.
Aliases.
I don't mind that they think that I have 24 people, and I know that everybody else does that too. So my grain of salt with Zoom Info goes like this. The numbers of employees are always high. The revenue is also higher than probably likely. So if you look at your own listing in Zoom Info, you can probably figure out whatever comfortable average you are that they are estimating high, and they're estimating high because of those fictitious email addresses that get used. They're not fictitious. There are people behind them, but we don't share their names.
Right. And if I ever got caught with one of our people, not my employees, but one of our people's addresses caught, it'd be over.
And how do you mean caught?
Because
like
they made an address that's got that conference in it. So
right.
they aliased their own and then used it. And if it shows up somewhere, they know that I'm the one who sold it.
So like if Clark has somebody subscribes to Clark's newsletter with an email address, that email address is unique to Clark's newsletter. Yep. So then if they get anything else on that email address that isn't from that conference, then that person knows that Clark sold or gave away that email address, and then he gets burned publicly.
That's crazy.
One other thing I want to throw out.
Very easy to do now. Apple lets you do it. Google lets you do it. Like it's super easy.
Yeah.
We did that for many years. Every vendor had a disambiguator.
One quick note, if Zoom Info is out of your price range, there is the guess and check method, and there's a tool called Hunter.io that works really well for the guess and check method. If you just want to get email addresses of individual contacts, say you've captured a whole bunch of LinkedIn profiles of people that are of interest, you can type in their domain name here. So let me just come over here and see what Jamie, oh, you don't have any email addresses at cncspecialtystore.com, do you? Oh, you're muted, Jamie.
Shit, every single one of ours is.
I guess that's good. I don't know.
But we can throw out.
Try cBloom.
Yeah, it's just C.
BLOHM.
BLOHM. There it is, right there.
There we are.
So you do first name at cbloom.com is generally how your email addresses are formatted, and then these are the ones that they know about. If I do sign in, then go away. I can do the same thing. It will actually give me those
Hmm.
email addresses. This is free.
Okay, and just to update it, because of course these things are never clear. Caitlin Lunger's been gone 2 years. Lauren Rothermy's been gone
Yeah.
7.
The names of the people here aren't necessarily going to be up to date or accurate. The important thing is to note that the
It's first
pattern
name
is
at
first name
Blum.
at C. Blum. So now if you know the person's first name, you know their email address.
Mm.
Absolutely true, with the exception of Lauren's and Emily's, because you can only have one Emily at.
So this is a really handy tool if you want to get an intern going to grab and get all those email addresses rather than having to go through Zoom info, or you just need to do a one-off or something along those lines. Again, scrappy, cold email, not something you want to do as a more established brand, because the brand reputation damage is not worth the benefit of reaching out cold to folks. But when you're first getting started, the benefit outweighs the detriment tenfold. So do what you got to do in order to get an audience. Once you have an audience, then do things in a much more brand focused way to maintain it.